Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for coming along this evening. It's fantastic to see all these faces. I'm really excited to hear the stories from everybody. So my name's Anna Moore. I'm a respiratory doctor, very part-time respiratory doctor at Barts Health, and an education fellow in the Education Academy, and I'm also a population health fellow. And I've increasingly been kind of conscious of the potential that active travel has to make people healthier, but also concurrently to start to address our kind of twin, or certainly interrelated and nested environmental health crises of air pollution and the climate crisis. And so I'm really keen that we start to kind of like really promote it as a health measure, but it's also really fun. And so we're really hoping that we'll get kind of lots of stories of joy with active travel. And we're joined by an absolutely stellar cast of panelists. I'm really pleased that so many people could come, and I'm going to hand over to Evie to start introductions and welcome our first speaker.
Fantastic. Hello and welcome everyone. I hope you can hear me. There's an open window next to a very busy road full of people not actively travelling, so I hope that you don't hear too much traffic as we go. I'd like to, with no further ado, introduce one of our panellists. His name is Kamar. She is a teaching assistant who shares her glorious adventures across London on her Brompton with her many Twitter followers. And so, Kamar, I guess we'd just like to hear a bit more about how you got into cycling, and just, yeah, sharing your experience of the recent events you've been involved with.
Hi everyone. I hope you're all well. Yeah, I mean, I've always been into cycling, but I think I got into more cycling more when the lockdown happened. I mean, I literally refused to go on any public transport and stuff. So, I mean, I asked around for a bike, and my brother came in with a folded up bike. I wasn't sure at the beginning what kind of bike it was until he opened it up, saying, "Oh, look, it's a Brompton." So as soon as he opened it up, I was literally ready to go for it. And I think since then, I've not stopped. I've always been on the go. And I just feel like it's helped me so much. Obviously, with my mental health, I've been suffering from stress and depression and all of that. And I just think riding a bike just helped me so much. It just, once I'm on it just kind of clears my mind. I'm in another world, basically, you know, and there's so much things to see and do and go. It's just, most of you guys seen on my Twitter page, I'm always going somewhere. I'm always on an adventure, trying out new areas, new places to see. So, yeah, that's really enjoy cycling. Yeah. So I didn't know how long I was meant to be talking, sort of. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, you've still got some time if you want to add anything else. I mean, you've touched already on the kind of the benefits of it, the kind of mental health and well-being. Are there any other kind of things you'd like, or like benefits you'd like to share of it? I mean, someone today said, one of our participants said she saved a load of petrol because she's not driving. So, you know, that whether there are any kind of other things.
I mean, I don't drive, so I think me cycling, it didn't really affect me in a way, because obviously I don't even have a license, so it doesn't really, I mean, cycling is something that I've just chosen to do, and yeah, and I think I'll keep carrying on. So yeah,
great. And I feel like we should tell everybody that you were in the Jubilee pageant, weren't you?
Yes, I did take part in the Jubilee pageant last 2 weeks ago. It was just the best experience ever, and I think it's just like once in a lifetime experience, and just being part of the whole Jubilee and the whole everybody cheering, it was amazing. Best thing.
Great.
Yeah,
fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, and well, I'm sure lots of people will have questions for you, so we'll look forward to chatting further.
So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kamar. That was really interesting. And so next, if we move on to Ruquyya. She is an obstetrician currently working at Newham Hospital, and as you may have seen on our Twitter, she loves to cycle with her young girl, and has got loads of experience with family cycling and also linking up people in local networks. So we'd love to hear more about that if possible, Ruquyya.
Sure. Do you want me to show you some pictures as well?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's hard to describe sometimes some of these bikes without actually showing people what they look like, because I think one of the things that people often say to me is, oh well, you know, I'd really love to ride my bike more, but you know, I've got 2-year-old twins, or I've got 3 kids, and you know, I can put one of them on a seat on the back of my bike, and then what do I do with the other 2? Or you know, I've got a baby who's too young to sit up and go in a bike seat, or I've got an older child who's got special needs, or you know, for whatever reason, just because of the busyness of the roads, I'm not happy with them cycling their own bike. So all of those kind of things. And that was exactly the situation that I was in. Well, my eldest is 11 and a half now. And so I basically got into kind of internet research. I'm going to bring up some slides. I won't go through all of them, but just to show you, just because otherwise I'll just take over the whole thing, which do tell me to be quiet, because I am, as Evie knows, I'm liable to chat. Right, so okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of pictures of various solutions. So if I go on SlideShare, will you guys tell me whether it's working or not? Is that working?
Yeah, we can see your slide.
Yeah, okay, fine. So I have got 2 Twitter handles. One of them I talk more about work, and one of them I talk more about bikes. So this is kind of overlapping, so I put them both up there. Yeah, I'm going to show you some pretty pictures. As Evie said, I'm an obstetrics and gynae consultant at Newham, and that's the labour ward staff room at Newham on the top left-hand corner, with my youngest, who's now 5.5, but when I'd just gone back to work. But I've also always ridden bikes, and I've got quite into campaigning for safer places to cycle. As part of kind of riding with children, I think it kind of goes alongside, or even riding a bike anyway, you kind of want to ride more safe places. So I've always been a campaigner alongside. And the top picture is from a demonstration outside where the beautiful cycle track along the embankment is. But I like looking at that picture because that's how it was before. Okay, so yeah, so as Kamal said, I cycled when I was younger, and I think lots of people do. And when my first baby came along, I was really lucky to have a friend who lent us a bike trailer when he was about 5 months old. And I'd never even experienced someone being able to put a tiny baby in a trailer before, and it just opened my eyes to someone needs to mute, I think. I don't know whether Anna or it's okay, that's better. And it opened up my eyes to what was possible. And then I quite like the idea of having a Dutch seat like up front, so that we could have a little chat while we were going along. And so that's him. Yeah, that's probably 11 years ago now, that photo of my first time having a baby on a bike, which was brilliant until I got pregnant again, and then my bump grew and grew, and eventually my bump bumped into the front seat. And so I moved on to a trailer, and so that worked really well. And one of the things that you can get family cycling equipment that's really expensive, and I'll show you some things in a minute that cost many thousands of pounds. But this trailer that served our family really well for 2 or 3 years was under £100 on eBay. I think it was second or third hand. And it did us absolutely brilliantly, and then lived for many happy years after that, and is still going with another family. So it doesn't have to be expensive. And we sold our car when my eldest was a baby, so this was our kind of family car for a number of years. And then I was lucky to get again a very second, third, fourth, I don't know, 20th hand Japanese Mamachari bike, which had a front and back seat. That was also brilliant. We had lots of adventures on that. We've also had adventures in tag-alongs, and then I got pregnant with number 3, and we invested in a cargo bike. And that picture is me cycling to hospital to be induced with my 3rd baby when I was about 40 weeks and a couple of days pregnant. because I actually had really bad pelvic girdle pain by then, and actually walking was really painful. But cycling, and this is an electric bike, cycling an electric bike was pain-free, and all I had to do was just move my legs enough to get the pedal assist to kick in, and I could go from door to door, and it wasn't just a kind of crazy thing to do. It actually was the least painful way of going to hospital. Even getting in and out of a cab would have been really painful. My husband did cycle at home afterwards. So then we've had many happy years of 3 kids in a cargo bike ever since. So there's the baby who went in there from about 4 or 5 weeks, and they're now much bigger. But we still I can still just about fit 3 of them. One of them normally goes on the back rack now, but it still functions as our family car. And we've also extended our whatever garage, we don't have a garage, but we've extended our fleet to include a tandem bike and also a triplet bike now as well, which I don't think I've got a picture of, which has got 3 people pedaling. And all of these, I'm a bit of a bargain hunter, so all of these have been second hand or third hand. My triplet that I just got was £600. And there's some more gratuitous cargo bike pictures of all weathers, and there's my personal record of 5 children on a cargo bike in the bottom picture. So I will stop, but basically I took a lot of the knowledge and equipment and set up something called the Family Cycling Library, which is based in Hackney, but does come out to other boroughs. And I'm just going to plug briefly an event at Leighton Jubilee Park, which is not too far away for hopefully too many people. And the Family Cycling Library is going to be there on Saturday as part of the Tour de Waltham Forest. And we're doing free loans. It's actually Alex from Carry Me Bikes who's going to be running it, but we're doing free loans of equipment for a month. So if you want to give a trailer or a child seat or a try, or just try it out or take it away for a month for free, if you come along to that event or look up the Hackney Family Cycling Library online, then all our events will come up on there, and you can see it's always free, because as I said, it's just about making it accessible for everybody. And I will stop talking for now, but very happy to take any questions once everyone else has had a go, talking about kids on bikes and any combinations of children and bikes.
Fantastic, Ruquyya, thank you. Oh, sorry, Evie, go on.
No, I should say thank you for the joyous pictures of the kids and bikes. They look like they're having a great time. And also thanks for mentioning e-bikes, because we're going to come back to them in a bit, which is fab. I can see a hand's gone up, and if possible, can we save questions for the end? Is that all right? And we'll move on to our next panelist. Who will be
Evie, is it okay for people to put questions in the chat as well? Because I don't mind answering things in the chat. Yeah,
please do pop them in the chat so that we don't forget about them and miss them. That'd be great. So yeah, our next panelist is Hirra, who is born here in East London, and is a trustee of the Women's Environmental Network. She works at Possible and campaigns for car-free cities. So Hirra, I believe you have some slides. And we'd all be really keen to hear more about car-free cities and what they mean, and what our future car-free cities could look like.
Hi, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to try and share my presentation. I'm not that au fait with Teams, so apologies if this goes wrong. Now, if I do full screen, can you see that in full screen or not? You can see it in full screen.
That's great.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So there is a problem in our cities and it's hiding in plain sight. Can you spot what it is? So my name's Hirra Khan-Adeogun. I'm head of car-free cities at the climate charity Possible. And I know some people might gasp at the term car-free because it comes as a shock to our system when, we just take for granted that grime and pollution and congestion are sort of part and parcel of living in the urban jungle. But our cities are about so much more than just the rat race. They're about communities, they're about homes, they're about our lives. And the current way that our cities are structured means that we're conditioned to accept the harm that comes with cars. And these harms are so ingrained that we don't even acknowledge them. So let's start from the very beginning of how, what's the problem with mass private car ownership in cities? And I've got like nine problems. I'm going to try and whiz through them to not bore everyone. But obviously, the first and perhaps most existential problem is that we're in a climate crisis, like actual crisis. And to meet our commitments to the Paris Agreement, we need to drastically reduce our emissions. Transport emissions are the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions in the UK. And within that, private cars are the biggest single source of transport emissions. Now, last May, a group of researchers screened nearly 7,000 studies from across the globe to develop this list of the most effective changes to household consumption to cut our carbon emissions. And as you can see, actually giving up your personal car or going car free is the most impactful thing we can do to reduce our emissions. Now, I know some people may look at this and think electric cars will save us because that comes second. But electric cars can help reduce our carbon emissions, but they don't help in any way with all the other problems with mass private car dependency. So I'll carry on with the other issues, and we can maybe come back to EVs and why that they're not the solution. So then we've got traffic collisions, which cause over 100,000 casualties in the UK, and 20,000 people are killed or seriously injured annually. So the World Health Organization put up this graphic where 1.3 million people are killed each year globally, and they consider the car the world's deadliest animal. That's sort of a level of catastrophe every year from cars that we kind of just accept with a bit of a shrug, as if humans are just collateral damage to the machine. The third issue is one of toxic air. It's killing us quite literally. And motor traffic is a major contributor to air pollution. There's harmful emissions that are produced like nitrous dioxide. And even if we take out, so going back to EVs, even if we take out exhaust emissions, all vehicles, including EVs, still produce particulate matter. And I take it that everyone here knows what that is and the impact that it has on our health. And, schools around the country, children are breathing illegally toxic air. And it's a very, very serious problem. The next issue is that of noise pollution. So I think whilst, road danger and toxic air are probably more commonly associated with the issues with mass private car dominance, I don't think noise pollution is given the attention it sort of deserves. London's last noise pollution strategy, well, we haven't had one since 2004. That shows you how high it is on the agenda. We created this interactive tool which allows people to listen in on the sound levels of different areas in London, and many of those exceed recommended limits, and it gives an overall picture of noise in the capital. And just this gone February, the UN branded London the noisiest city in Europe. And I'm sure everyone here knows how noise pollution is strongly linked to increased levels of anxiety, which has knock-on effects on circulatory, heart, and mental health. So then point 5 is on the inactivity crisis. Over decades, machines, cars, and technology have taken over many of the tasks that used to require physical effort, and it's almost without realizing it, we've engineered physical activity out of our daily lives, and the consequences of that shift to more sedentary lifestyles on our health are severe. Again, I don't need to tell you about that. But walking more, cycling more, and using public transport more are the easiest and most affordable ways for many people to get more active and live, more active, healthier lifestyles. Moving on to number 6, it's the argument about space. So the COVID-19 lockdown and the closure of parks and urban green spaces highlighted how access to outdoor space is a luxury denied to many people, particularly those from low-income households living in tower blocks. And private cars spend over 95% of their time parked. That means in a place like London, over 50 square kilometres of land that should be available to the public is handed over to those who are privileged enough to own a car. Here's a little bit of analysis that we actually released just today, looking at the cost of a parking permit in London for a year versus the cost of trying to get a parking bay suspended if you wanted to do a pop-up parklet for a week. And, you know, it's almost 10 times more, almost 10 times more. And when I know I might rustle some feathers when I use the term privileged, and that is because when we look at the data, the poorest in London tend to walk or bus to work rather than owning cars. I'm talking about the very, very poorest. And that's kind of across the UK, really, we see that pattern. It is these people who suffer the most from toxic air, noise, stress, congestion, and traffic danger from basically other people driving through. What this graph is basically showing in red is the 10 most deprived London boroughs. And you can kind of see a trend in that the more deprived a borough, the lower the car ownership in that borough. So point 8 is on social isolation. We don't hear enough about this, but a major threat to our quality of life is the impact of high motor vehicle traffic on neighborhood social interaction. So where traffic volumes are high, residents report limited social contact with people on the other side of the road. They have fewer friends and acquaintances than on lower traffic streets. And the extent of people's home territories also diminishes as motor traffic increases, and it limits the mobility of people walking and cycling. People often perceive more road danger in their neighborhood as a result of traffic conditions on their street, and this affects the degree of independence granted to children. And if we believe it takes a village or a community to raise a child, we have to take seriously how cars and traffic sever that sense of community. It's a lot safer to meet and create physical communities on a street in low traffic areas. And that's what this very famous study, it's quite a few decades old now, shows. Where you have light traffic at the very top, that's how many engagements or interactions people have, versus heavier traffic where, you know, you can see the lines in between, hardly any interaction going on in comparison. And then finally, there's the quite obvious point about, you know, congestion and how our cities just weren't designed to accommodate this kind of vast number of vehicles they now have to endure. So congested roads, absolute deadlock. And in London, the average speed of a car is just 7 miles per hour. And drivers waste 8 minutes of each car trip driving around looking for somewhere to park. I mean, it's just not a pleasant driving experience anyway. So why do we carry on with this? And what can we do about it? So at Possible, we never campaign on an issue we don't have a solution for. So I'm here to get you all excited about our Car-Free Cities campaign. We work in Birmingham, Bristol, Leeds and London, and we want to bring to life a positive vision for our cities to move away from mass private car ownership. That's taking space away from cars and giving it back to people and nature. And I want to make it really clear that when we say a car-free city, we don't mean a city with no cars at all. What we mean is a city that's free of the dangers, pollution and emissions caused by mass private car ownership. We know that there are many people, including some disabled people, who can't get around without a car. And our aim of fewer cars on the road means more space for those who must drive and better cities for everyone. So just going to touch very quickly on some of the things that we've done so far. So in January, we teamed up with 10 drivers from our 4 cities to research how possible it was for them to live car-free. And we wanted to find out the experiences of real people, most of them parents, some of at the end of the trial, all participants reported using their cars less or using alternative modes for some journeys. And then we had participants who had sold their all participants reduced their weekly travel expenses. We were really pleased to see how much money people were able to save in the process. Almost at the end of the trial, all participants reported using their cars less or using alternative modes for some journeys. And then we had participants who had sold their cars and bought e-bikes instead. We had 2 participants who went down from being a 2-car household to a 1-car household. And we thankfully managed to stop one participant from becoming a 2-car household. They were just on the verge of doing that before they did the trial, and they said that the trial made them reconsider. So we're hoping the trial shows that how a short intervention to reorganize routines can create long-term behavior change. And part of it is that people need to experience this themselves. It's not enough to just tell people that they can go car-free. They need to actually try it and find out for themselves. So we've launched the Going Car-Free Challenge using the learnings from this trial to encourage the public to reduce their car use or even give up their car in July. So I would encourage you all to check it out. There's a link in the corner. I know already you've done like a similar Going Car-Free June off the back of some inspiration here. But I would really encourage everyone to kind of get involved, and there's some fantastic prizes to be won. And then finally, if I still have time, I'm not sure. Can I whittle through the last few, or should I stop? I can't actually see or hear. I'm going to try.
Evie, you're muted. You're muted, Evie.
Well, you are a little bit over time, but maybe 1 more minute.
Okay, but I will do this as quickly as I can. So the final thing I wanted to talk about was parklets. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, green space earlier and how hard it is to come by. And a shift to more space efficient forms of transport can help create more public green space, including things like parklets, which are old parking spaces that have been transformed into something for people to enjoy. You know, currently London allocates less than 1/5 of its land area to public green space, but rather than just creating, you know, big new parks in certain areas, parklets can ensure people have fairer access to green space by redesigning parking spaces that already exist. So what can you do? Just on that note, I'm going to skip a couple of slides, but you can ask local councillors to get on it. And we've tried to make this as easy as possible with this form. And what we want to see is a simple parklet permit process in all boroughs across London to give residents more equitable access to public space. You can use our parklet plotter online. You can find the perfect spot for a parklet. And, you know, you can kind of explore that and have a look at, you know, it gives really great information. It's a really cool tool. And if you have any events that you're doing, we've got this design your own parklet toolkit, which is really fun for kids, particularly to get involved in. They can cut it out and colour it in and design their own parklet. And then finally, we are still we're still looking for funding to basically put in some permanent parklets in particular places where they are desperate for some green space. So if you can help out, there's a link there. And I'm just going to end on the note that, you know, I know our transport systems seem unmovable, but really they're the result of deliberate policies that have driven us down this path. And so we can change it. And I hope I've been able to inspire some of you to join us and campaign for car-free cities. Thank you, and sorry for going over.
That's fine. That was really interesting. Thanks so much, Hirra. I'm glad that you mentioned Car-Free June, because I think some people have been ditching their cars for the last 2 weeks. So we'll hear more about that later. Next, I'd like to move on to Ruquyya, who works as a chaplain at Whipps Cross, where she provides spiritual and pastoral care for her patients. But she also has built in cycling and active travel into her working life and into her routine. And so we'd love to hear more about that, if possible.
Sure, thank you very much. So my cycling journey actually started around 2012 when I was doing a lot of voluntary work, and I needed to get to places. And when you're not charging for the time you're giving, then you can't actually afford to pay petrol for your car because, yeah, you're not earning, and then it's coming out of your pocket. So time is something I could give, but I couldn't actually then manage to pay for petrol. And also I had taken on many things. So I should be like, I would be in Finsbury Park for 1 o'clock, but I have to be in Walthamstow for 3 o'clock, and, you know, the schedule. So that's when I thought about cycling. So I actually watched a program, which many of you may know, called The Midwife. And because I wear Islamic clothing long down to the ground, so it's like a long, it's literally like what the nuns used to wear. And I used to think, okay, I would like to cycle, but I don't think it's possible. Not with my clothing. It doesn't go with what I look like. And Call the Midwife started on TV, BBC, and I saw what they were wearing, and I thought, right, what the nuns were wearing then is pretty much what I'm wearing now. So I thought, okay, what kind of bicycle are they using? A Dutch bike. So it was okay. I need to look into this. I need to see how I don't get caught, and then start cycling. At that time, I was one of the few people that was cycling then in my clothes. Now, lots of people are cycling, lots of cycle sisters, many things. And yeah, started off, and I did have a few instances where I'd get caught and, okay, pull out your bike and work again, but it worked perfectly well. And as I said, for me, cycling was never a hobby. Honestly, it was a necessity. It was, how do I get from A to B in the shortest time possible without it costing me too much? The fitness, the energy levels, everything that came along was just a bonus and icing on the cake. But then when I started working at Whipps Cross, some days were really, really heavy and mentally, and people would ask me, so how do you de-stress? And honestly, I cycle to work and I cycle back, and what I would do is take a loop, an extra loop, especially with Whipps Cross, the trees, the forest. I would actually just take an extra loop before going home. So just cycling through that, having the trees, having the wind, taking that air in, taking some deep breaths, so that before I come home, I've almost, mentally had a cold briefing with myself on my bicycle, enjoying that. And that became my thing to do. So that's why when we mentioned it, mentally, how do I manage, how do I debrief sometimes from a hard day's work? Honestly, it's just jumping on the bike and cycling through trees. I love it. And it's become my thing now that once I cycle through these trees and I get through this point, I switch off. So, okay, you can leave work behind, you can leave the baggage behind, and you can have a clean head and walk in. Yeah, ideally, it's also been great moving from one plot to another. So from Whipps Cross to Royal London, I have to go off to Newham, and it's so nice to just jump on your bicycle and get there. So yeah, that's me, short in time.
That sounds lovely, and I love the idea of like getting on a freezing cold bike in the winter and it being a cold debrief.
It works.
So thanks so much for sharing that. And now I'd like to move on to Zoe. Zoe's from Bikeworks, which is an inclusive cycling organisation based at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. And they aim to address inequalities across London communities. They run community cycling initiatives such as all ability clubs, where I think 3,000 people with disabilities and carers can attend regular cycling sessions for free across London. And so we'd love to hear more about Bikeworks. So.
Oh, that's lovely. Thanks, Evie. And I really liked, Ruquyya, that image that you just conjured up of being on a bike. I was like, yeah, we should be out there now. Great to be here this evening. And like other colleagues on the call, I've got some nice pictures as well, just to bring things to life a little bit. So I will also try and negotiate share tray. Much more of a Teams person, so you should be able to see. And hopefully, Evie, you'll give me a verbal okay. But oh god, something's happened.
Yeah, that looks good to me. I can see
yeah, you can see something. It's when it says things like presenting pause, you have a mild panic. But hopefully you can see some pretty pictures. So thank you for the introduction. So I'm just doing it at my end because what I can see is a bit different. So on your screen there, you should have the All Ability Clubs picture, which is a great way of just showing all the different cycles that we have at Bikeworks. So Bikeworks is a community evolved social enterprise and founded by our East London community over 16 years ago, which is incredible, really. At Bikeworks, what we do is we use the bicycle as a tool for good. And we do that to address inequalities in all different ways. We originally set ourselves up to leverage the opportunities of London winning the hosting rights for the 2012 Games and its future legacy. And of course, as we know, it's 10 years of legacy this year. And Bikeworks now finds its home in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, having been in many locations across East London. As soon as you find one, sadly, you're outed and you have to move on. But luckily, being a cycling organisation, all of our activities take place outdoors. We're focused very much on those less likely to access cycling, and there are other fantastic cycling groups across East London and London as a whole that all do this in different ways. But for us, this really does centre on those that are most likely to be excluded. So very much those people who consider themselves to be disabled, have life-limiting health conditions, or are carers. And that's why we call ourselves an inclusive cycling organisation. As a social business, and the reason we're still around is we do a lot of contract delivery that's our profit-making side, which is all designed to support our socially impactful work. So that really does enable us to deliver tons of free-to-access activities for those people that I have described. We deliver those activities not only in those beautiful spaces and places that we all know and love across East London, but we also go out and deliver in a pop-up type way in the neighbourhoods and estates and locations where those people most likely to experience health inequalities will live. So working with our partners, including housing associations and primary care teams, is really vital for our work. All of our activities, they focus on increasing physical activity as well as well-being, but we look at connectivity as something quite different. We look at connectivity between people and between places, so how you travel to and from somewhere. We deliver an inclusive cycling community programme, and that really does help us serve our mission. And we do this with a fleet of over 200 cycles, so you can imagine what that looks like from a logistical point of view. Bad enough if you've got a couple of bikes in your shed or locked up outside. And what we believe is that there is a cycle for everyone. So our fleet includes hand cycles, wheelchair platform cycles, trikes, recumbents, and a whole lot more. We have not only our all ability clubs, but we've added to our offer, and we've added to our offer over the duration of the pandemic, when those people most excluded really were asking us to put on more of an offer because they really had been overlooked at that time and very much underserved. So for people, you know, who are connected, particularly those people that have two-wheel standard cycles, getting back out during the pandemic, during that first phase, we were very much encouraged. And actually what had happened for our community of benefit, those people without networks, where care services or health had disappeared, actually were very much left at home and deteriorating both physically and mentally. So we also have not only our all ability clubs, but we have our Cycling for Wellbeing programme, and that provides a structured activity that connects people to one another while embedding, of course, the NHS 5 Ways to Wellbeing. So we encourage people to come together as a group to explore their local area, which is easier said than done, particularly for some people that we support and that we work with. And also to build those skills in safe environments where they might actually progress to using those skills to cycle for travel, so what we call on-road cycling. We also have a ride side-by-side taxi, and this is where I hope I can skip the slide. Yay, I did it. That's good. Gold star at the end of this. We have our ride side. Oh, did that not come across? Oh. I think that's just someone coming off mute. I thought I was having my gold star taken away from me. I hope you can see this really innovative vehicle. It's a
we can't, Zoe, we can't see the side by side.
Oh,
we
no,
can't see
it. You're telling me. Let me see if I can do that again.
Go and refresh, maybe.
Let me stop, come back out and come back in.
It's Teams. It does this all the time when you try and go into slideshow. It's not you, Zoe.
I love that. Right, let me click on that, and then that slide is there. Sorry, this is where you get to find out my learning style is just to talk out loud to everybody as I do something. Has that come up right side by side?
Yeah, we can see that.
Yay, brilliant, brilliant. I didn't dare do anything like share the film. We have like a little 1-minute film that I can circulate to people on the call to have a look in their own time, which really brings it to life. But the ride side by side, as you can see, why it's called ride side by side, it's 2 seats at the front, 2 at the back. We work with a fantastic cycling manufacturer in the Netherlands called Van Ram, who are very excited to work with us on this. So as a cycling obsessed organisation, we're definitely people obsessed, but we do have a lot of people that like the engineering of cycles, which is great fun. And the ride side by side, we launched during the pandemic, and that was very much to go out and engage those people experiencing isolation or low confidence, but particularly to address loneliness. Over the 2 years, we were able to pilot with lots of different partners and get some fantastic feedback. We even put together an evaluation report to demonstrate the impact of the ride side by side. And I'm delighted to share that the Department for Transport has recently funded us to scale this across East and West London over the next year. So we'll be having 6 of the ride side by sides out and about, picking people up for good conversations, for practical activities like going to the doctors or other trips, but also exploring the local area and having good fun. And yeah, we've had, honestly, it's one of my favourite things at the moment. If you get on it, you just instantly start smiling and laughing as well. So it's really a fantastic service. We like to think of the ride side by side as being very much an alternative for a dial-a-ride service or a community transport service too. And of course, as you know, loneliness is a health issue, and it does disproportionately affect particular members of our community. So cycling's never been so important for keeping active, being outdoors and keeping mentally well, meeting other people and for travel. Yet the issue that we have is that very many people are not considered when thinking about how to access cycling. As said, the most excluded people being disabled people, and I feel that if you get transport solutions correct for those people with mobility and physical disabilities, you get it right for everybody. And we can see that from how our public transport system has changed and evolved over a couple of decades. If you think about the public realm, even getting adapted cycles through the posts that are designed to keep cars out become an additional barrier. The cycle highways, think about the bends and the curves and the width that you need to negotiate outside of the standard 2-wheel cycle. Because adapted cycles are seen as specialists, there is also an issue regarding affordability and access, and that's part of the role that we play as providing that. And of course, because people come in all different shapes and sizes, there is always an issue on getting the right fit and finding the right cycle, as there's very little access to guidance or trying a cycle before you commit. You know, as we know, cycling, you can invest as much money as you want. And so if people do invest, the worst thing ever would be that they find themselves with something that actually isn't suitable. And of course, if we really do consider everyone being a solution to tackling poor air quality, we really have to consider access and inclusion. What we do at Bikeworks is still seen as very niche, and it really shouldn't be. And so I will leave it there and try to use my escape button. And
that was fantastic. Thank you, Zoe. And such an incredible organisation doing really important work. And like you say, it's so important that the benefits of active travel are accessible to everyone, and that we work hard to make that the case. So now we're going to move on to Emma and I think Paulette, who have been spending the last two weeks or 16 days without their usual forms of transport, which would be a car, and they've ditched that for the e-Bromptons instead. So we'd love to hear a bit about your experience, guys, and what kind of benefits you've noticed switching away from cars. So if Emma, we start with you.
Hi everyone. So the benefit I've experienced is I seem to be waking up a lot earlier, and I'm getting excited now to actually cycle to work, because I don't know to get stuck in traffic waiting to get through the Blackwall Tunnel. Also finding new routes. So I went from when I first got the bike to going the quiet route, which is lots of turns and going in and out houses, so I'm not on the main roads, to then the regular route, because I use City Mapper, so it gives you 3 options on how you want to do it. So now I'm on the faster route, which is all roads, but I feel very confident on my bike now. It also has helped tidy my mind up before I get home. Before I'd get home in the car, because I'd be annoyed about the traffic that I've just been sat in, and then that would then bring into all the situations I've had to deal with at work. Not necessarily all bad at work, but how I've then dealt with that. But by the time I get home now, because I've had to focus on all of my surroundings and it's been lovely and sunny. I think I only had one day where it was raining, and that was on the way home, so I wasn't that bothered. So yeah, my mind has been clear when I get home, and I can plan on the way in without having to worry about driving into someone, really. The thing I found difficult about it was shopping. I didn't forward plan that at all. So I went in for a big shop, obviously couldn't do a big shop. And then realised when I'd bought too much that I'd bought too much and had to then cycle home and struggle with the backpack on, the front bag filled to the brim of food and drinks. So I didn't do that again and just walked further down the street. Instead of going to the big shop, went to a little shop, but you end up spending a little bit more there, but it's not, it outweighs the benefit. It's fine. I dealt with it. Also, what was a good thing is that I didn't have to put petrol in. Now it's £2 a litre, so I've saved loads of money that way. And my favourite day was today, this morning, although it's like nearly it's the second to last morning that I'll be driving to work, because it was lovely and hot and I didn't have to wear a jumper, and I didn't feel that self-conscious about it, because normally I'm like cover up, but I felt fine and just thought I'd get on with it. So yeah, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it, and I'm quite sad that I've got to give the bike back tomorrow. So now I just email everyone to see if there's a scheme I could get onto. So I'm looking into it. So to get a bike and stop using my car.
I'm so glad that you've enjoyed having the e-Bromptons. And I found that on my bike, I've got like a little water bottle holder, and it's perfect size for a courgette.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Paulette, are you with us as well? Maybe not. Maybe we should just go straight onto Jonathan.
Yes, I am.
We've got Paulette. Brilliant. Can we see you, Paulette? Are you able to share your screen or your video even? Oh yeah,
I'm not able to share my screen at the moment, so that's why I've just left my profile on. Yeah, so I've only had my bike since last Thursday, because for one reason or another I wasn't able to start on the 1st of June. I'm based at the Royal London, so it was a bit of a trek for me to get over there, and I had to use the car to park to then get a bus and get a train and what have you, and it was a palaver. But I finally picked it up last Thursday and found that it was a bit heavy for me. I'm not that strong and I'm not that tall, so having to lift a folded bike off the ground to take it down the train station was difficult. So I decided, you know what, I've got my helmet, I'm going to cycle home. I'm in Hackney, so I decided when I got to Cheapside I would cycle. I got to Liverpool Street and nearly fell underneath a taxi because I wasn't used to the bike and I wasn't used to how fast it would pull off. But once I got moving, it was very exhilarating. You know, you shoot past the static traffic, the things that have to sit there and wait. You have the ability to go through areas that say no entry except cyclists. So I felt privileged. And I got home. I folded the bike up after quite a faff about, because I couldn't remember what Jonathan had told me about folding the bike up. But I eventually got there, and I was looking forward to the next trip on the Friday. The Friday went well in the morning, but coming home, I again nearly fell underneath a vehicle. I don't know, I think I might be accident prone, but and impatient, because I was stuck behind a bus with no way to go around, and I tried to pull out and then there was a car coming and I nearly went under the car. But apart from that and receiving a massive bruise, I have enjoyed my cycling. I've found new ways. I've shaved 15 minutes off my journey to work and from work. It used to take me 40 minutes in a car. The first trip took me 30 minutes to work. The last trip took me 15 minutes, so I'm doing well. It's almost like
beam me up, Scotty. I don't really need to really worry about how long it's taking me to get to work. I am enjoying it, and well, I look forward to using the cycle a bit more. I'm not sure about getting and buying a cycle at the moment, because there is the disadvantage of needing to buy shopping and being able to carry it, and I don't have one of those hook-on boxes that you could kind of dump your shopping in and cycle it home. I don't have that. I don't have the luxury of the space to put a box should I get one, or somewhere to store it. So a car will still be in my life in some shape or form, which is a shame really, because I am enjoying riding the cycles.
That's great, thanks Paulette. And yeah, I think it is really important to talk about times when cycling can be quite difficult, like interacting with difficult like bits of traffic on the roads, and how actually, even though London is great to cycle around, it's still not that cycle friendly. But I'll hand over to Anna now as well.
Great, yeah, thank you both. That's really, really great feedback, and it's interesting that the same kind of issues have been identified, and I wonder if we could, Jonathan, whether there's a way of helping with the shopping issue. We have got Jonathan with us, and I kind of twisted his arm into coming along and helping, because Jonathan has done a huge amount in the Trust for Active Travel. He is the reason we were able to lend out these Bromptons for people to borrow. So I don't know if he wants to say hello very quickly, but I'm also conscious there's some kind of superstars of active travel here. So Sylvia, I've just been Googling you. Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for coming along. And also Ben from Pedal Me. And it would be wonderful just to hear really briefly from Ben as well. So yeah, hi Ben. So Jonathan, tell us quickly about the Bromptons. We seem to have lost you. Oh yeah, we've got you. Brilliant.
I'm there. I'll be quick. So hi everyone, my name is Jonathan. So I'm Deputy Director Ops over at Barts. So over the COVID, we've been working with Brompton to lend out Brompton bikes to colleagues and NHS colleagues around London, and it's been really successful. The latest phase is Barts Health have funded Brompton Hirra docks with e-bike capability to be installed on all 5 hospital sites. So Whips, Royal London, St Barts, Newham and Mile End. And the aim is that will avoid everyone having to come to me at St Barts to get the bikes, and it'll be much more accessible. We're going to offer discounted hire rates, and there'll be heavily discounted hire rates for bands 2 to 6 colleagues. We're going to have free hire for cycling between sites or same-day community visits. So there'll be no cost to cycle during the day for work or getting between the sites. And the aim is to build on the legacy that we've had during COVID, and to really enable staff to experience what cycling's like with regular bikes and e-bikes. I'll do it very briefly. So as well as working at Barts, I'm also studying at Imperial, and I'm really interested in what role the NHS has in enabling active travel. So I agree with everything that's been said this evening, and there's lots of great work going on. And as an activist in my local area, what I found was there wasn't an easy way to get into organisations, to get a voice, to support local campaigns or organisations to advocate for active travel. So as a leader in the NHS, I think it's our responsibility to do that, and that's why I want St Barts and Barts to enable colleagues to promote voices and provide a platform for local organisations and to help join the dots. I think that's our responsibility as a health organisation to do that. So that was quick. So.
Fantastic, thank you, and I hope that through today and the obviously ongoing work from you, that's exactly what we're doing. Brilliant. Can we hear from Ben quickly? Oh, Ben's going somewhere. Where's Ben off to? About what Pedal Me is. I don't know if everybody's au fait with who Pedal Me are, but it's a great organisation.
Hello everyone, hope you can hear me okay. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in helping people use bikes for about a decade, working mainly in the public sector and in charities. And then I hit on this idea of using the fact that bikes are quicker than motor vehicles to get around cities to start a business. I was running this community cycling project. We were turning up in council estates and teaching people to ride bikes. And we needed to move bikes around. We tried using vans to do that. We found it was a waste of everyone's time and money. So we got some cargo bikes and started shipping bikes around on these massive cargo bikes and trailers, and then realised that most urban deliveries and taxi movements were being done by motor vehicle, and that was not very economic and not very sensible. And so with a couple of friends, I started a company 5 years ago now, and now we're about 100 people. You might have seen the bright pink branded bikes pedaling around. We carry people, we carry things. I'd just like to echo kind of what Jonathan was saying about the importance in people's changing behaviour of really big institutions like the NHS. I think you're in a really powerful position to influence change, because the NHS is, I think, the biggest employer in the UK, but also because it's a trusted institution, people will watch what you're doing and learn from it. And I think you're in a really powerful position to influence change, not just within the universities, the hospitals, the trusts that you work within, but outside of that too. I think the work that you're doing here is really important.
Thanks so much. That's right. And well, Barts Health is 18,000 staff, and we are East London, so yeah, huge opportunity. Great. Well, we have a whole 3 minutes left of the evening where most chair people might start to wrap up. We're just starting our questions. Does anybody have any questions for our panelists? I'm conscious that Kamar's been sitting through patiently and quietly the whole thing. She kind of spoke for about 30 seconds at the beginning, but yeah, any other thoughts or reflections from what we've heard? Obviously, we will share resources, and already people have been dropping things into the chat. Oh, Paulette's got a question or further statement. Go on.
Yeah, no, I have a question actually, because I was singing the praises of cycling into work, albeit I've only had a week of it. But I was telling my colleagues, telling anybody that would listen, basically. And one lady that I spoke to said she has a very poor sense of balance. And do they do the three-wheeler like the ones the nuns used to ride? I said, well, when I get an opportunity, I'll ask, do they have electric bikes in the three-wheeler variety? So that's my question.
Oh, I think you've got the expert here on on that. Although I think also, I know it's difficult because you're in a kind of situation, but cycling does a huge amount for your core strength. And I think like it's if you're kind of prepared to take that, I guess, that risk initially, then you do improve lots of things. I've noticed, definitely. Zoe, are you able to answer the question about three-wheel electric bikes?
Yeah, we love three-wheelers. So yeah, definitely. And of course, you know, you have to start somewhere. So when your balance and your core isn't strong enough, or you might have another health or condition or mobility issue, and even for those cyclists that have been used to a two-wheeler and then have stopped cycling and have lost confidence and have physically changed, yeah, a three-wheeler is definitely a great solution. And I'm trying to think if there must be an E3-wheeler. I'm going to find out. I can't think we have one in our fleet, but I'm going to ask Jim, who is our cycling expert, and get back to you.
That's great, thank you.
Brilliant. Rebecca's just shared in the chat. Rebecca, have you got a trike? Any trike?
Well, I ride the cargo bike, so it is the Christiana is a three-wheeler bike with a box up front, so it sorts out all your shipping needs, all your balance needs, and all your dealing with a hill needs, which I discovered there's lots more hills in Walthamstow than I thought there were. So yeah, I highly recommend that. A bit pricey, but well worth it.
Yeah, one of the members of the Beyond the Bicycle Coalition, which is a group that I set up along with Wheels for Wellbeing, who are another inclusive cycling charity, which we need to invite you to, Zoe. So we need to get your email address. Which basically
Wheels for Wellbeing,
yeah, because basically we come together to campaign on all of the issues about accessibility, affordability, and all those things that bring together cargo bike owners with tricycle users, with tandem users, with recumbent users, with you know, all ability cyclists. So anyway, what I was going to say is one of our coalition members is someone who doesn't have children, but he rides a Christiania electric assist. He's had a stroke, and he uses that as his sort of mobility aid, his electric assist Christiania. So you don't have to have children to have a cargo bike, and yeah, I think 3 wheels is transformative for some people.
I even gave a grown man, a neighbour, a lift to the train station in my cargo bike the other week, made his day. So I'll be coming to pedal me for a job when I need a new career.
I was trying to find some pictures, Ben, if you're still on the line. I was trying to share your share my screen for 30 seconds so you can see. If you're ever miserable, just go to the Pedal Me Twitter feed, because there's just so much joy on it. I love this one. I'm going to get the Star Wars character wrong, but whoever that is from Star Wars, and then all the people, but not only people, but like giant things, bikes on bikes and furniture on bikes and people moving house by bike and all of this. It's just it's always a really joyful place to look, and all of it, like really pushing the boundaries of what you can do with a bike.
Thanks, everything else. That's absolutely brilliant. I completely concur. I love the pedal meter. Jonathan saying we have had patients arrive by Pedal Me, and it's a great head turner, absolutely. And I think that's a really important point. You're saying need to get staff on, and part of the reason we want to do the Brompton project was that I think if we're not cycling or if we don't understand what that's like as staff, then how can we kind of recommend it to our patients? So I think it's really important. It's a good place to start. Someone else has their hand up and I can't see who it is, but please just unmute and
talk. It was Rob, was it?
Hello,
hi Rob.
Oh,
yeah, sorry,
it's
Rob.
Rob. Hello everyone. Yeah, Rob Spate. I'm the Trust Sustainability Lead. I think we're overrunning, so I'll just take a second of your time just to thank everybody for the contributions today. And I've really enjoyed the last hour listening in, learned loads, but I just wanted to introduce Hannah Goodman, who's joined us today at the Trust from Sustrans and has been on the meeting as well today. And thank you to Jonathan for introducing us to Sustrans. And Hannah will be helping us over the next 9 months enacting some of the things in our active travel plan, and I'll hopefully taking forward some of the great ideas and helping staff promote active travel and cycling. And then we're going to recruit our own whole-time member of staff that will be dedicated to active travel as well, and Hannah will help them teach them the role and access to networks, etc. So I just wanted to say thank you and just to introduce you to Hannah. Thank you.
Brilliant. Welcome, Hannah, and thank you very much for coming along this evening, and you're so new in role as well. I feel like an hour wasn't enough. I would be prepared to stay on for a bit longer if anyone wanted to carry on discussing stuff, if there were more questions or more reflections. Equally, if people have to go, then please do just go. It's a tricky time of day, although I've got the staff in, I've got my mum in, so she's like dealing with all the children. So yeah, any further kind of comments or discussion points that anybody wanted to raise? Or could we say hello to Hannah? Is Hannah still here? Do we get to see your face, Hannah? Jonathan's going to add something. Thanks, Jonathan.
I was just going to say, building on that kind of message, I think the next step is to really break into the kind of logistics of the hospital. So getting people like Pedal Me in to see how we can get staff using them instead of taxis, promote them with patients, see what we can move around with those in a way that meets the needs of the hospital. And I think there's lots of opportunity, and I think that's where we need to start breaking the ground and opening people's eyes. So if we can work together on that, get pilots going, I think that'd be really great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Hannah's agreeing we can maybe try and get some experiences up at St Barts to get feedback and promote on site. And I think that's right. And so Ben and I have had a discussion this week about can we in fact, prompted by Ruth Anna and somebody else who's on this call on Twitter about how do we get staff using this maybe out of hours, because it's maybe a good time. So definitely looking into that. Ruth Anna, hi.
I was just going to say also, in terms of getting hold of bikes to try, I think, I'm not sure about Waltham Forest, but I think I know that Newham and I think Tower Hamlets are both covered by Pedal My Wheels as well, who are another really excellent small kind of community interest company who do try before you bike, and you can borrow a bike and try it for a month, 2 months, 3 months for a really low amount of money, normally kind of £10, £15 a month, up to kind of £50 a month if you want like a top end e-bike. And then if you do want to keep it, then you they take off the money that you've paid them already. And they also have cycle instructors who will come out and the bikes are delivered by cycle instructors, and they'll give you 2 hours of free cycle training as part of the deal. So it's a really, really good scheme. And anyone, you don't have to live in Newham. You can work in Newham, and I think I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure Tower Hamlets has signed up for it as well. I'm not totally sure about Waltham Forest, but basically nearly all of London is covered. So if your work borough isn't part of it, your home borough probably is, and it really, really makes it affordable. And they also have cargo bikes as well as electric bikes. So it's making it's really kind of making these kind of very expensive bikes accessible to people on any income, and they're fully insured and all, they don't mind you bumps and scrapes and all of those kind of things. So it's a really, really good scheme. I don't have any commercial link with them, but I currently have a bike from Pedal My Wheels. So and I know we've got our own Bromptons as well, but if you want a different bike, thanks for sharing the link, Anna. And Henna, I think most of the boroughs do look on the Pedal My Wheels website, but it does cover a lot of London now, so you might well find that your borough's part of it. I was going to just ping my other contacts and resources in the chat, or maybe just share my screen again quickly, because I forgot to say about the Family Cycling UK Facebook group, which is one of the things that I've set up, and it's got 13,000 people in it now, and people tell me it's the friendliest group on the internet, and you can come and ask whatever questions or just get inspiration from what other people are doing. Sorry, that's the slide before last. Sorry, I'm just trying to show you. That's a website, that's the Family Cycling group. And then the other things that I did, just because I forgot to show that slide earlier, and I will put them in the chat as well.
Fantastic, thank you, Ruthana. That's brilliant. And so I think once we've kind of like wrapped, we can start promoting this to staff, and starting to see this as part of healthcare. Certainly that's kind of how I operate in the breathlessness clinic. I think this is what we should be doing in terms of like we should be prescribing this to our patients. And so Pedal My Wheels and Bikeworks and all these fantastic, and Family Cycling Library are all things that we should be prescribing, I think, as clinicians. So thank you so much to everybody. It's been a really fantastic evening. I've really enjoyed it. If people, the panelists, are the panelists happy for us to share your contact details? Zoe's saying yes. Kamal, we can see you on Twitter. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So we'll maybe send out or we can, or could you maybe drop them in the chat for people to be able to see? Would that be all right? If you're, I think you already have, Kamal, but others as happy to do so. And we hope to continue the conversation. Oh, Jonathan, coming back in.
One last message. All these ideas are great, but as we've experienced in the last 12 months, to make them happen, we need money. And we've been fortunate to get hold of some money to kickstart stuff. But I think we need to be working together to secure money, either from corporate sponsors, using the hospital partnerships with organisations who are willing to invest in communities. And we need to be leveraging money, a percentage of, to invest in sustainability, active travel in the communities. That's the only way we're going to deliver change, is by delivering good quality projects, and it needs money.
It's true. It needs money, and just to like leave it on a real positive. Oh yeah, so absolutely, public health and the CCG and the ICS, and it's great that we've got Rebecca here, because that's my route into the ICS. Thank you so much for coming, Rebecca. But I think in terms of kind of just chatting money, you know, clearly that's important to fund it, but the benefit, the kind of money that we're going to save if we can do this. Somebody asked me on the podcast yesterday for the trust about what it would be like if we could get everybody cycling, if we didn't have so many cars on the road, as the kind of vision that Hirra has given us. And I was like, well, we wouldn't have that. Just hardly have anybody in clinic, because that we wouldn't see as much illness. I think, I mean, I don't have a number for that, but certainly it's said to be, and everybody on this call will be able to correct me, but it's said to be that an active commute reduces cancer and cardiovascular risk by 45% each. So it's just extraordinary benefits that we get from this. So as a health trust, we are firmly placed in a, you know, in a place where we should be doing this, because it's, yeah, it's our job. Ruquyya, your hand is back up. Is that a legacy hand, or?
That's an old hand. Sorry, I just haven't put it down. I mean, I could talk all night, but you'll never leave.
We should just be in there, you know, in a cafe somewhere, shouldn't we, or in the park? Oh, Rob, yeah. Hi.
Yeah, it's just really to say, I put a little bit in the chat as well, that we are building up the infrastructure at Barts that's going to enable us to deliver schemes at scale. The problem is, with our sustainability team, there was only 3 people in it, and we just didn't have the capacity to do anything at scale. We've got the commitment now to recruit, and we've got our new net zero lead starting 1st of July, Philip Tamuna. We've got the commitment to the Sustrans whole-time equivalent, then we will replace them with our own person. We've got the team's going to expand to at least 10 people, but we're also going to have a structure of groups, a group at each hospital that will be a dedicated green group, plus the specialist groups. So we'll have a clinical transformation group. We'll have through Andrew Atfield's clean air group, we'll take forward all the ideas around active travel. But we'll have an estates group that will look at decarbonising our hospitals as well. And there's a recognition that funding has to follow. But we know that a lot of these things will save money. So we already know through changing use of anaesthetic gases this year, we're going to save £200,000 by the way that, you know, relatively simple changes. So that by saving money, we can then reinvest in other sustainable activities. So I think we're very close to having that infrastructure to allow us to deliver at scale.
Fantastic, thanks so much, Rob. And with that, on that excellently positive note, Hirra has had to leave already, so big thanks to Hirra. Thank you so much to Kama, thank you to Paulette, to Emma, to Ben, to Zoe, to whoever, Ruquyya, and Ruquyya. Thank you so much to all our panelists who've really shared fantastically joy-inspiring stories with us this evening, and we hope to continue the conversation. I need to say thank you to Evie. Sorry, Evie is an F1 doctor. I didn't introduce you. Evie is an F1 doctor at NEOM. When I was an F1, I could just about be an F1. Certainly wasn't organising panel discussions, and with the kind of skills and impressive, you know, real ability. So Evie, well done. It's been fantastic working with you on this, and let's keep going. Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
Huge thank you for Anna for all of her organising as well. Always juggling kids and cycling and organising. It's incredible.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much. I don't think I've been in a virtual space with more enthusiastic cyclists all at one time.
It's been great. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much to everybody. Oh, there's still more stuff going in the chat. It's brilliant. I'll try and capture it. Thank you. We'll send out a recording as well. Okay. Right, thanks so much, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.